New Year, guys. Don't know where have you guys been for Christmas. I've been to why is this like not working? Oh, it's working. I've been to Seattle. It's been a fun city. Um, anyway, these are the two photos I took. Just wanted to share you guys these two beautiful skylines. So here's our agenda. It's not gonna be too heavy. I'm gonna recap on last semester's content. Hopefully you guys remember some, and I'm gonna introduce one new idea. It's called functionalism. So now it's a little review activity. I want you guys to tell me one concept that you remember from last year. Just one would be fine. And you guys can speak for as long as you want, anything you remember about it. When the speaker is finished, anyone who feel they have something relatable can continue.
Physicalism, the idea that the brain can entirely be described in terms of physical properties, and there's nothing besides the physical to it. And there's also the problems of it. There's the big problem, the hard problem, and then there's another problem. Is it right? Or is there just the big problem or the hard problem?
Tell us what you know about
It's definitely difficult. It's definitely one. Yeah. It's I don't remember.
No worries.
Hint. Wait. Give me a hint.
So, consciousness, the feeling feels quite different from neuron firing. Yeah. You got some kind of notification.
Oh, battery.
So your hint would be unconscious feeling. They seem quite different from neuron firing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The qualia.
Yeah.
Yep. Something to do with qualia. Oh, yeah. That we can't perceive a bat may be able to use like ultrasound to feel, let's say a fly in the sky. But even if we had the ability to ultrasound, we don't know what that feels like. Even though we can describe what it is and we know what's happening, we don't know what it feels like.
Cool. That's a very good example of purple. I'm just gonna give it a recap now. So, what DJ talked about is there's this idea called physicalism, right? It just says mental state is caused by something physical. It might be something the brain is doing, maybe some kind of brain function. We can use physics to explain mental states. They also have a problem. It's called the hard problem of consciousness. Basically, it says our feeling seems quite different from the neurons firing. We might not be able to explain feelings from neurons. One example he mentioned is called, what is it like to be a bat? So you guys know bats can perceive ultrasound, right? Like, which are waves we cannot really perceive. It's only they can perceive it. Now, if a human neuroscientist has studied the bat's brain in a great detail, and the human neuroscientists know that how does the bat can perceive ultrasound, maybe it is the bat's eardrum vibrating in a certain way, causing the bat's brain firing in such a way. Can that neuroscientist perceive what is it like to feel ultrasound like a bat? Probably not, right? The knowledge of how does a bat work versus how does this process actually feel like seem to be quite different. So that is the hard problem for you. I'm gonna talk about it next class. Good prediction. Anyway, anyone else who wants to follow up? Any one concept will be fine. Dualism? Just anything you remember about it. Just anything you remember.
Wasn't there like the mind is like there's the part which we perceive as like ourselves, and then there's the physical brain. I don't think that one where.
Do you remember the name of that idea?
It was the one where we were arguing about the validity of like arguments and how we had to say like is there something in conscience that isn't just physical, or is it purely physical?
This token identity and type identity, like and one's kind of definite. So
Oh, cool. Let's examine the ideas one by one then. So I talked about this other flavor of physicalism. It's called identity theory. Yeah, probably. Yeah, the blue one works. So, identity theory just says your mental state is completely the same as your brain state. Now, I mentioned there are two ways that things can be identical. One is identity by definition. The other one is identity by composition. Sorry guys, this blackboard is not that large. So, as DJ mentioned, this identity by definition means two things are just sort of identical by their very definition. Now that sounds circular. Here's an example. So, a square and a parallelogram with four equal sides are identical by definition, right? Because it's just how things logically work. One thing is defined by another. This other identity, called identity by composition, depends on the states of the world, depends on the empirical facts. For example, the claim that Napoleon is identical to the Emperor of France. Well, that might be true during the period when he has not abdicated. When he got defeated by the British, that statement is no longer true. This identity depends on the states of the world. Why does these two things matter? Well, it's because we discussed that if the mental state and brain state are to be identical, this type of identity by composition, is probably more reasonable. We came up with a conclusion that we probably need to do some neuroscientific research rather than just thinking about what does the mind or the brain mean to establish this identity. All right. Is there any more concepts that you can remember? Any one would be fine. And also, Daniel, you mentioned dualism, right? Dualism is this other flavor on the relationship between the physical world and our mind. Unlike physicalism, which says physics can explain mind, dualism says no, mind is this other substance who is not under the jurisdiction of physical laws. They are this complete other substance. Cool. So let me pick things up for a little bit. Initially, we talked about consciousness. What does it mean to have consciousness anyway? Yeah, what is it? Yeah. What does it mean to be conscious? Yeah, you can perceive qualia. What is qualia? It's subjective experience, right? To have consciousness just means it feels like something. For those of you who were there, do you guys remember Luke spilled a bowl of ketchup on the floor, right? When he is dipping that bowl of ketchup, he is subjectively feeling the sweet, the sour, the taste of the ketchup. Whereas when he is spilling it on the floor probably is not feeling anything, right? That's quite unfortunate for the floor. Yeah, he is missing out quite a lot. So then comes the question, right? Luke is made of atoms. The floor is also made of atoms. How come that Luke is able to perceive taste, but the floor is not? Yes.
I think biologically, consciousness is like a reward system. Like getting rewarded for certain actions, then you'll continue to go, and then you'll survive.
Do you think that reward system is manifested physically, for example, in the circuits of the brain somehow?
Yeah.
So that might be something we can add on to this physicalism to investigate further. Anyway, so why are we conscious? Why is the floor not conscious, but we are? We had the initial view called dualism that says, okay, we are conscious because we have this mysterious mind substance that, according to Descartes, is given to us by the creator, which is the God, and the floor does not. That's why it's inanimate. But this view has a problem. Does any of you remember dualism's problem?
The other substance and material are not allowed to interact.
Great.
But yet they do. I've never had the feeling that I want to move, but I can't. Whenever I want to move, I do. So somehow consciousness controls the physical world, even though it's something not physical. Also, you could have trauma to the brain and affect how you are as a person.
Great. So what the trauma case says is changes in the physical manifestation can cause changes in mental states. If mental state is not supposed to be physical, how can this be possible, right? It shouldn't have anything to do with the physical world because it's not this physical substance. And you guys just hit this interaction problem head on. I give another example here. You guys have probably seen this quite a lot, but I'm gonna just shortly repeat it again. Yeah, it's a delicious bowl of ramen. So when you put this delicious bowl of ramen when you're hungry into your mouth, right, it's gonna cause changes in your physical body. Your tongue is gonna send electrical signals to the brain, basically. They are physical activity. But why are they causing you to be able to feel the taste of the ramen, right? Physical world is causing changes to the mental state. Well, you will struggle to account for this fact if you believe the mental state is non-physical. Clear enough? So we then switched to another view. We said, since the outside world and the mental state has that much relationship, maybe consciousness is physical. Maybe we can explain it through studying science. We examined one flavor of that. It's called the identity theory. They just says mental state is completely identical to your brain state. For example, pain is identical to some fiber called C fiber firing. And an important note to this view is that what your brain is composed of matters. For example, if they think pain is C fiber firing, a dog which does not have C fiber, in their view, shouldn't be able to feel pain. They have two problems. One problem is the heart problem. The other is multiple realizability. We already talked about the heart problem. Does any of you remember what is multiple realizability? If no, it's fine.
Just reviewed it, I think. So I think it's the idea that a mental state, it's an alternative to physicalism, I thought, multiple realizability, right? Where physicalism or identity theory says this mental state is identical with this physical thing. Basically, if I were to look inside your brain with enough precision, I would be able to tell you what you're thinking. Multiple realizability says, no, it's not identical. There's many ways that you can come up with, oh, that is pain. Like pain in an octopus looks different, is a different thing from pain in a human, from pain in a flower. They're all different, but they're all pain. That's thence the multiple realizability. And so you cannot identify pain with the firing of the C neuron or whatever. You have to say pain is pain, and it can be done a whole bunch of different ways.
So what he just said is, for the same kind of feeling, for the same kind of experience, it can be realized in different organisms, such as pain. I can experience it, floor probably not, but a dog probably can, octopus probably can. But the thing is, although we cannot have this feeling, we're not necessarily made of the same substance. For example, they do not have C fibers. So,
The problem here is that and how do you know the difference? That is, how do you know something's here? How do you know anything has pain, for example? Just say pain, other than it appears from the outside to have pain. So if you decide to do multiple realizability, that there's a physical or
Cool.
Every time you encounter a new species, you'd be like, maybe that one can't feel
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, people say lobsters don't feel pain when you boil them, and nonsense. But they come
But
up
we
with
don't really see any behavior.
we do.
Mhm.
You know, it's like they scream apparently. So, but we're gonna go through this argument every time we find a new species. Maybe this one doesn't feel pain. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, teacher.
We may not know the intricacies, but we know like the input. Like, this animal is gonna have a negative reaction. Like, I hope this animal will also have a negative reaction. So like, we may not know what's going on, but we can know what's in and what's out. So that we know what's actually happening.
Remember, this notion of input and output is actually crucial to functionalism. But now let me finish explaining multiple realizability. So, same feeling, realized in different organisms that are made of different stuff. If we continue to say that your brain state, what your brain is made of, is identical to your mental state, we're gonna have problem accounting for this. Right? So, we need to come up with a new theory to make up for this multiple realizability problem. Last period before Christmas, I asked you guys, what is a wrench? Is this a wrench? Guys, is it a wrench? Is this a wrench? Cool. These are all wrenches, right? Are they made the same? No, this one has a red handle. All of these other ones do not. This one has two heads, right? This one only has one head. So they are made differently. Then what makes them a wrench then? Why are they wrenches? Yes, DJ. And isn't one of those traits the function they realize, right? No matter its shape, one head, two head, it can be made of the damn mystery meat from cafeteria. As long as it can screw up a screw, we call it a wrench. So, maybe we can also try to define a mental state by its function. In terms of philosophy of mind, we call this function causal role. What this means is just what causes it and what it leads to. In your term, DJ, what input causes it and what output does it give? For example, pain. We can say that this mental state pain is caused by something harmful, such as stepping on a nail, and always leads to some painful behaviors, such as shouting ouch, right? I can take this input and output ouch. You can. The dog can. It probably will say like wolf, wolf, other than ouch, but the idea is the same, right? So,
run into a master and then he's like, ooh, more. That's the output for the same input.
cool. So, you are actually pointing out a problem of functionalism, and since we're here, why don't we mention that, right? See, we're saying pain is caused by something harmful and it leads to painful behavior. Isn't this definition a bit circular? How do we define painful behavior, right? If we define it in terms of what pain leads to, well, what defines a pain is that it leads to painful behavior. You are defining these two things in terms of each other, and it's not really giving a lot of content, if that makes sense. It's a circular argument. Avoidance behavior. Yeah, then maybe we can establish.
No, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Masochist is problem.
Then perhaps based off our empirical knowledge, right, we can say there's a certain category of behavior that is always associated with pain. For example, avoidance can be running away, can be shouting, can be a lot of stuff. Cool idea. Maybe this will work, maybe this will not. We'll discuss that further. But now, to make everyone clear on this concept, here's another example. Happiness. we now don't define happiness as some kind of fiber in your brain firing. Rather, we define it as if something inputs pleasant things, such as eating a very unhealthy amount of gelato, in my case, it's gonna lead to happy behavior, such as shouting, "Damn, this tastes so good." There's an input, it causes a certain category of output, and this causal relationship is called happiness. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I'm making this definition of what outputs, you're saying I need to make this something that's generally applicable to everyone rather than me. Is that what you're saying?
Like, because if somebody else is happy, you don't necessarily know that they're happy or in pain. Like they could hide it, right? So, like you're never really gonna be able to like fully observe it, right? So like, why would you base the definition off your observation if most people assume that other people's happiness feels similar to the way that they feel happy? So they're just basing it off their own personal experience. I guess like that's how.
I think I know what you mean, but I think DJ may have something to say.
Yeah, I should think of the brain as like a biological like reward and like a punishment system to feed into a survival behavior. Then it makes a lot of sense that like it wouldn't work this wouldn't work the same for everyone, because it's not going to be exactly the same or a perfect system, but it's the idea that in general it's going to lead to outcomes that'll keep the person alive.
Right. So, Victoria, you're Victoria, right? Oh, sorry. File with names. So Claire has touched on a very interesting point that what do we mean by mental state? By mental state, we mean, qualia. It feels like something. Oh, wow, this is not working. Do that later. Feels like something, right? Now, this feeling might cause different behavior. For example, when I'm happy, I might shout, "Damn, this is so good." Other people might do something else. So, behavior might not be a very strong evidence towards what you are feeling, because different people might have different reactions. So, when it comes to this regard, functionalism perhaps is giving us not as strong as an evidence when it comes to defining mental state, right? If we're just defining it as what comes in and what comes out, what the person behaves like, we're still not definitively sure about what goes on inside their mind, right? We're just making this inference based on behavioral evidence, which may or may not be correct. So, why would functionalism solve multiple realizability problem? I feel like we touched on that, right? So, I'm gonna skip this part. So, the fact that it will solve multiple realizability problem is basically because since we're now defining mental state in terms of functions, being able to accept some kind of stimulus and giving some reactions, a dog can do that, a cat can do that, I can do that, right? It's realizing multiple organisms, right? Cool. Now, multiple realizability is solved. What do you think are other pros and cons of functionalism? The machine.
This tells me something back. How do you feel? And today I feel sad. Or whatever it is that ChatGPT would say. Systems, artificial systems.
So you're saying if we define mental state as linking some kind of input with some output, think about it. What does it mean mathematically? Right? What transforms some input to an output? It's literally a function. Now, isn't that very workable? Right? Say if we want a robot to at least mimic human feelings, we can program it to be such a way that when it is experiencing seemingly pleasant things, it is giving the output of a happy behavior, right? If we want a near human robot, this idea is going to be quite useful. And also vision. Do you guys know, like, now we have these cars that can drive themselves? They're also kind of developing off this functionalism idea, because they originally sort of copied their mindset from the brain. They treated the brain as accepting some kind of visual input and leading and outputting towards a perception. So they basically studied how does the brain mathematically transform some input into a perception of output, and they copy that onto cars.
There is a response to some stimulus, but on the output side, you could hurt my feelings, and I can bottle that up, right, and hold it against you and not show anything. Or I could hear a song that is a happy song that makes everyone happy, but I get sad because it was my wife's favorite song and she died, or something like that, right? So it seems like functionalism can't really account for the complexities of some more complex mental states. Don't have an output, or it doesn't really seem to do a good job of handling the quality of itself, right? Like of subjective experience. And then this is like the kind of problem with behaviors, is just have to ignore that.
So you're saying if we are to predict other people's internal experience, hey William, we wouldn't be able to do a very good job of it, because again, different people might have different reactions to the same thing. Maybe in my perception, I define listening to a certain song as outputting a happy behavior because I have happy memories. But other people may have, sad experience about it. For example, your wife died, right? So if I see John hearing a sound and experiencing sad behavior, I probably would not interpret John as hearing to that song I was talking about, right? But I would say, in the defense of functionalism, you can say that different mental states interact with each other. For example, I can say that perhaps in your case, your behavior is sad because it is also interacting with this mental state of remembering the experience of your wife's death. Whereas me, right, because I like this song, I can say I am outputting the behavior happy whenever I listen to this song. The reason why you're exhibiting sad behavior might not be because of, it might simply just be because of it's interacting with some other mental state. Yeah, there can be multiple inputs, right? So perhaps we can still define, in this case, the experience of listening to a song as inputs and outputs. I know I probably wasn't too clear. I will make that clearer in the next session. Alright, so any other pros and cons? So Anyway, just to summarize on what we talked about, right? Pros is that we can use this idea of input, processing, output to construct robots, such as car vision. On the con side, we don't seem to be able to predict other people's feelings very well based off of the definition of functionalism. Any other feelings?
It doesn't seem to like trying to define consciousness, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, all these things are all models of consciousness.
Mhm.
So someone saying, "Here's how I think consciousness," but they all end up falling short of what we experience.
Yeah.
None of them actually describe something that we're like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely it. That's what it's like."
Great. So this definition seems to be ditching out consciousness, right? We are just saying this because of this state causes this. Where is the place for subjective experience? Where are we explaining that? Our primary goal is to account for why do we have that experience, and this model doesn't seem to be doing us so much of a good job on that, right? Cool. Great. Cool. All right. Any other thoughts and feelings? No. Thank you guys for being here, Dan. Yes, over. There's only one thing I want to address. You probably realized for this session, my language was a bit more slow and confusing. Thank you. Than the last few, and that's because in the previous semester, I was basically planning stuff by myself. I was rehearsing every single little part, so I'm very familiar with what's going on next. What thing am I gonna talk about? And I sort of have a script inside my head. This semester, the difference is I'm handing the initiative to you guys, right? I'm talking about stuff based on your response. This means I can't really plan things. I can't really have a script. However, this does open up more room for discussion. Like, you guys raised a few good points, good objections to functionalism that I didn't even thought about, right? So, I believe as the semester progresses, as we get more familiar with this form of discussion, we're going to be able to come up with a lot more fruitful and interesting things. All right, thank you guys for being here then.